I'm your host, Will Lambley, and today we are so excited to be joined by Antonio Graham, who's the new head football coach at Owasso High School, and we're going to talk about his journey growing up, playing football, and now coaching football, and some lessons he's learned along the way. First off, man, we cannot thank you enough for joining us, Antonio.
Man, thank you for having me. It's a blessing, and I know with you and being a student and stuff like that, and you're home and you want to get some of these good home cooked meals and meet up with your friends. So thank you for taking time out of your day to come and visit with me. And it's a pleasure and an honor, my friend.
Yeah, we can't thank you enough because I know you've just got announced as the head coach at Owasso probably about a month ago.
Yep, yeah. About a month ago. It feels like it was just yesterday.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, it's
still kind of surreal, at the moment, but. It's definitely a blessing for sure.
Well, my favorite thing, my mom teaches in the Owasso School District, and she, since I can't watch videos, she loves to send me different videos of coaches talking. So when you got hired, she sent me it, and I'm actually wearing a Clemson football shirt right now. But your interview reminded me so much of Coach Dabo Sweeney's because he talked about how it was such a dream of his to be the coach, and I'm sure every day you've been able to wake up and just be like, man, God's blessed me.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I said it just a few minutes ago, just walking in here. I'm just like, God is good, dude, because there's a lot of people that would like to be in my position, and you kind of ask God, why me? But I never question God at all. That's one thing I never do, even when it's the bad or even when it's good. But it's like, God dang, man, I'm so blessed that, and it could have been anybody else. And I would have been just as happy for them, but I'm very, very thankful that I got this opportunity. And, there's going to be, it's going to be great here, man. I mean, I'm looking forward to this season and the off season and just getting to know these kids on a different level. And the hardest part, one of the unique parts about this is the kids all know me as an assistant coach. And I'm still trying to keep that assistant coach relationship / the head coach relationship, because when you become a head coach, they don't want to talk to you as much. Ooh.
Yeah.
But no, I kind of want that same relationship, So that's kind of off topic, but whatever.
Yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, it's definitely gonna be cool to see because something I was thinking about is the head coach, everyone, whether it's coaches or players, they're going to look to you on those Saturday mornings after wins or Saturday mornings after losses, and how you respond is going to help the players so much, not just during the season, but they're going to be able to take it with them in life too.
There's no doubt, man. Kids look at your body language, the way when something goes bad, so I got to be more on point than I've ever been. And people are going to watch me hey, how's this new coach going to be, and how's he going to act, and which I already know all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I always want to be that guy that going to be always positive, and you're always blessed to see another day. So let's make the next day better.
Yeah.
So anyways.
Yeah, and I think what's cool about you is talking to you and then just reading about you, and I think God just prepared you for this situation with your upbringing and some trials you had to go through from a young age. Would you mind speak on that?
Yeah, man. I'm originally from Alabama, born and raised. My mom, I'm the oldest.
Alabama or Auburn?
Alabama.
Okay. Should I ask that because I know that's huge.
I grew up in Tuscaloosa. Probably, man, Alabama football stadium, Bryant-Denny Stadium was probably about 5 minutes from me.
Wow, that is crazy.
Yeah, I grew up right around the corner from it, and so I was the oldest of six. My mom had me first, and she had me when she was 15 years old, and so at that time she was still trying to be a kid herself, an up-and-coming teenager. So my mom eventually got married, and everything was great up till I was 9 or 10 years old. Went through a really bad divorce, and that's when my mom was going through that divorce, that's when my life kind of went for a change. Well, as you can know, my mom may be in her early 20s at the time when she's going through this divorce, raising 6 kids by herself as a single mom. We're staying in low-income apartments or low-income housing, and it was hard on her. And so she kind of went back to some of her teenage ways, I would say, immature ways, coming home late. I became the man in the house at a young age. and it was a lot for me at some point in time. And my little brothers and sister would look up to me and stuff like that. So I kind of learned how to be that leader at a young age. And so, make a long story short, my stepdad was who I thought was my real father for a long time, which I'm very grateful because he treated me like I was his real son. And so he basically, when they went through a divorce, my mom kind of lost custody of us. Well, my brothers and sisters kind of went this way, and I went a different direction. And so that's when I kind of found out that my stepdad was not my real father. And so eventually my real father lived in Oklahoma. He kind of got with what was going on in my mom's life. And, there was times where we were probably going to be up for foster care and go into the system. And he kind of took me in. And my dad, I moved up here with my father, which was great. My dad was a hardworking guy, and he was, what was unique about my dad, I don't know if you read about this, but when he was 36 years old, this is when the Tulsa Challenge came out. He was the oldest guy that made the team with the Tulsa Challenge. So he played semi-football, played arena football, real talented guy, real talented man. But he got me enrolled into, sports. Started playing sports for a TPS school, Whitney Middle School. It's a TPS school they're a feeder school for Nathan Hale. Well, at the time, what was unique about my story, at the time that when I was a sixth grader, Keywan Jones was going to Nathan Hale. And so I saw him move to Jenks, sorry. He moved to Jenks, and I saw how it worked out for him. So about time I get into 8th grade, my dad was like, we got to make a decision, dude, because we see what Keywan Jones just did. So he goes, well, so we ended up looking around, visiting a few schools, and it was just something about the Union program and Coach Blankenship. And at the time, Coach Blankenship probably lost like 4 state championships in a row. And so the wise man was like, we're moving to Jenks, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, nah, I want to go to Union. And so me and my dad moved to Union, started playing as a freshman, been successful. And I got brought up as a freshman and started playing varsity a little bit. Well, things are going great in my life, and my dad always made sure that I kept a relationship with my mom and my brothers and sisters. Just, hey, your mom's probably not the best mom, but you always going to respect her. You always going to stay in touch. She brought you into this world. He made sure. Well, he was in a previous relationship, got a kid. My dad got a kid on the way, and we're excited about this. Well, he goes over his significant other's house. It's December 23rd because he wants me to go home for Christmas. Well, he said he wakes me up, hey Antonio, I'm about to go drop off these Christmas gifts, and I'll be right back, and we're gonna leave. So that day he never got back, came back or whatever. He actually got murdered at his significant other's house. He had another guy in the house. They get into an altercation, and my dad got murdered 2 days before Christmas. So I get word back that my dad just got murdered, and of course you can only imagine a 60-year-old kid how he takes that. So in my mind, I'm like, what's next? Like, how do if I go back to Alabama, my mom's not in the best shape, so I probably get into foster care or somebody else has to take custody of me. So I'm like, I'm gonna stay right here. So I'm like, I moved in with my uncle, and things kind of wasn't great with that or whatever. So I kind of just figured it out the hard way, man. And so, back long story short, high school coaches came a part of my life, and he, one of my high school coaches, like Coach Blankenship, my assistant coach, a school counselor, they all kind of got wind of my story, because I didn't tell anybody my dad passed away, because I didn't want to go back into the system or anything like that. So I just kind of kept everything normal or whatever. And so anyways, it kind of took a village to bring me in and raise me. And so I ended up getting a scholarship to go to Pittsburgh State, which, if you can only imagine, school was kind of hard for a young teenager kid going through all that. And so my GPA was high enough, but I struggled with the ACT. So that kind of hurt me a little bit, you know what I'm saying? So, but anyways, I ended up getting into school and went to Pittsburgh State, become an all MIAA player, and things just kind of worked out for itself. So God still took care of me even though I went through that adversity, and man, the only thing I can think of when I got done playing at Pittsburgh State is that I got to give back. I want to coach. You know, I got to do what people did for me. And so that's kind of like a gist of my story in the long run.
Well, it's crazy. And then when you were 16, as obviously you're dealing with like adversity that like none of us can imagine going through. Well, was there a time, I'm sure, where like you probably weren't even thinking about football?
Man, to be honest with you, and it's crazy how you say that. And I only shared this with my wife. I told her the only way I thought I was going to make it was through football.
That's awesome. Wow.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and so like I always thought I was going to make a lot of money coaching football or doing something with football. So I mean, of course, I was always thinking about surviving too.
Yeah.
But it was just a safe haven for me because I go to the football for. I knew I was going to be around positive people for at least 2 or 3 hours a day. I was that kid that coaches had to kick out of the locker room, but I wanted to hang out, be around people as much as I wanted to. So, man, it was honestly a blessing to be honest with you.
That's crazy you say that because I was 16 when I started losing my sight, and one thing that like I love doing more than anything when I started losing my sight, and like just brought a smile to my face, was like still going to like those hard football workouts. Oh, yeah. Because it was like, man, I can like just having the thought that, man, I get to do this. Like, like this is still in my life. Well, and
to be honest with you, you know, now I go back and look at it. You gave nobody else while you were doing that. That kid that say, "Oh my gosh, like my mom and dad was into an argument last night, so I can't. You know, I'm so tired. I can't do." Well, they look at you and they can't have an excuse. You know what I mean? So you gave them no excuse. You know what I mean? And that's kind of like my motto in my life. Like, yeah, my dad died. I still showed up to school. My mom wasn't really there for me. I still made it to every football practice, even in college. Like they didn't come to my games. Like I didn't give them an excuse. I didn't use it. Like I failed the test. Well, the reason why I failed that test because I was thinking about my dad. That could have been a great excuse for it.
Yeah.
But it's probably because I didn't study. Let's just be real. You know, and I could use those as excuses, but at the end of the day, we still have to become successful. So you didn't use losing your sight, no excuses. You could have easily done that, man. And I could have did that. So I have this motto where no excuses, high expectations, and perfect execution. We still want to have, you know, we don't want to make excuses for ourselves. We still got to have high expectations for ourselves, and we want to execute like equally.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of my motto. I don't give these kids excuses. I really don't like telling my story because they just think that, you know, I just made it just off of a, you know, crystal ball, you know. So but I don't give these football players an excuse like, oh, coach, my mom was going through a divorce and, you know, it's just so hard on me. Well, you still got to be successful. You still got to make it. So I'm going to give you a little grace period, but you got to snap out of it.
Exactly. And I love what you said about no excuses because when I started losing my sight, that's one of the biggest lessons my dad taught me. And he told me, he's like, "Well, you can still do everything you want to do in your life, but only if you make no excuses." And when I first heard that, I was like, okay, that's easy for him to say. Right. But when I thought about it, I was like, you know how much time I could save and how if I truly make no excuses, like the chances of everything going better is. And now, like, they have me come speak to the Arkansas football incoming freshmen every year about making no excuses. And it's just crazy, like, how, like, the easiest thing to do is make excuses. But I feel like the people that have made the biggest difference in my life and are, like, true difference makers in life are the people that say, you know what? That's not me.
Oh, no, they don't make excuses. Like, I mean, Kobe's and his wife, they can all have these excuses, and anybody can come up with so many different excuses, man. But it's not going to get you anywhere. Yeah. You know, it really not. The story I love the most is Josh Jacobs. You know, he got an incredible story. The kid could have every excuse not to be successful. They had to make this kid was so used to sleeping on the floor when he was a young man and sleeping in garage doors. In garage floors because they were moving from house to house. And when he got into a dorm room or whatever, they go in this dorm room, he'd be sleeping on the floor because that's what he was used to. And so, and the fact that kid, as far as it's unbelievable because he didn't use it as an excuse. He used it as a drive, and I did it as well. Like the way I grew up in poverty, and I always told myself, man, that like I don't want this in life. And I'll be honest with you, man. I got younger siblings that, they use it as an excuse. And I'm trying to get them to snap out of it, man. Like you gonna continue to be where you at until you snap out of it.
Yeah, there's a quote. There's a running back who played at Grove who we had on our podcast a few weeks ago, Emmanuel Crawford, and a quote he's told me a few times is he grew up in he was sold into slavery from the time he was born to 6, and he says that in life so many people just think they're the victim and think there's nothing they can do about the circumstances, but when you turn them over to Christ, you can use them as a weapon to help others.
No doubt.
And I think that's what's awesome about the platform you have now is that you never know what these high schoolers could go through or what they're struggling with. Mm-hmm. But like you've said about the game of football, how it helped you and was just like an escape that you could find joy. About how like, man, this so many people like watch football think, okay, you just go watch on a Friday night, everything just clicks.
Yeah,
but
yeah. They don't realize that it's the repetition until it becomes like memory, almost like memory foam or whatever, like secondhand nature. And I try to have an atmosphere with the coaches and with everybody, with the whole program. We have a deal I have to show you guys here later, but just 1 second. We have this book that we do. We have a player development. I show these guys. We got a guy on our staff with Uncle Reds, and he's Coach Blankenship's brother, who I'm able to keep along the staff. And we give out these books, it's called our spiritual conditioning or whatever. And each day during fall camp, they have to read this verse or whatever. And the verse may talk about adversity or anything. And we literally ask questions about, I may call it, hey, linebackers, what was day one verse about? And so we try to keep a very positive Christian environment, and we want our kids to stick around here. We want our kids to be around our families and stuff like this. And we don't try to just kick them out the locker room. There's some days where I just get tired of them, like
yeah.
But we try to have we want to touch you spiritually, mentally, and physically here. And so we want to hit those main points of your life before you get out of this program. And so we try to do a good job, and we like to try to show these guys like giving back and volunteering and just teach them. It's not all about football, here at Owasso. It's about life after football. And so that's real important to me because for myself, it was life after football as well. So.
That's so awesome about how you guys do this with like the verses during fall camp, because I feel like there's so many great coaches like across the country, but like I feel like the coaches that truly like make a difference in those players' lives are the coaches where like, sure, they know ball, but it's not all about ball. Oh, yeah. It's about that foundation for about building champions on and off the field.
Absolutely, and there's a lot of great coaches out there, man, who never won a championship, who never won a playoff game, but they affect more lives than those guys who win championships, who win playoff games, who has rings. There was a kid that moved into my school when I was a senior, and I looked over at him and he was just crying. And I was like, "What are you crying for?" Man, he's a senior at the time. He's like, "Man, we won. He won a playoff game." And I didn't think anything of it. But he's just balling because he never. Matter of fact, it wasn't even a playoff game. It was the first game of the year. He was a senior and just went over every single year. And he took it, and we take winning for granted.
Yep.
But winning is hard. And it's just little things like that I didn't realize that. It's like, and so that's when it opened my eyes that like winning is hard. Even though it is a bad win, you better be grateful.
Yeah.
And that's in life. That's in anything. Take the small wins and celebrate them. Because some people ain't never won in their lives, period. And so I look at that a lot different too as well.
That goes along great with a quote I've been thinking of this whole time, which is exactly the quote I thought of when I first heard your interview when you got announced as the coach at Owasso, and that is, always make your appreciation for whatever you have in life greater than the expectation.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you said that, because going back to my interview, everybody's like, man, do you think there's going to be all this pressure following Coach Blankenship? And I said, no, it's not going to be any pressure. It's really a blessing that I get to follow behind Coach Blankenship, because most people, they run away from situations like that. You know, like, who wants to follow Dabo Swinney? Who wants to follow Nick Saban? But that's actually a blessing to follow those programs, because there's a lot of places where if you follow somebody that's not as good as those guys, you got to clean up a lot of stuff, man.
Exactly.
So I look at it as a blessing, and because I was able to be under somebody so great and learn and do all the mentorship under him, and just keep it rolling. And whatever happens. But at the end of the day, I know I'm going to be able to keep my head up high, because I gave it all that I had. And so the day I leave here, or the day I always tell my kids, man, don't be that person that say, I wish I would have, or, oh, man, I regret that. You always hear our parents like, man, I wish I would have. I tell anybody that, like, do everything you can right now, and don't never leave the weight room or school saying, oh, man, I wish I would have. Because that will haunt you for the rest of your life, Yeah. Because I always hear my parents say that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it kind of reminds me, you talked about how you worked with Coach Morris at Tulsa.
Yep.
Something Coach Morris would do, I know with his teams at SMU and Arkansas, is before the year would start in fall camp, he would have every single player write down and bring a picture of whatever their why was. Mm-hmm. And like say they had a day where their effort wasn't great, or like they missed a catch, and like they come off the sideline, they're just like yelling and stuff. He would go up to them and say, okay, did that make your why happy today? And I think that's something that reminded me of, because like it's just cool, all the lessons you can learn through football.
Oh God, it's one every day, and it's what you do with the lessons too as well. And that it's don't make the same mistake twice, and don't be afraid to ask and say, like, I have this saying, like, man, if you don't feel like you're getting coached, go to your coach and say, coach me, coach. That's his job. Communicate, and that's something where high school kids don't feel comfortable doing is communication, or is out of their comfort zone. And I tell that to a kid that's in college, man, if you're a walk-on or you a scholarship player, and if you're not getting what you think you deserve, you better say something or communicate through somebody so you can get the opportunity you deserve, or you don't feel like you're getting the first shot. Go communicate, because their job is to evaluate you. And then if you don't do that, and let's just say something happens, there you go, having that regret again. So don't say, I wish I would. So get it while you can,
Exactly. Don't
let it be a lesson. Sometimes in life we make things become lessons, and we can avoid those lessons. And sometimes those lessons can hurt us, and I try to avoid those lessons that can hurt us, try to attack it now so you can move on, and you can kind of advise somebody else too, So that's just kind of, but it took me a while to get to that point too in life.
Yeah. Was there some coaches that really helped you, like when you were in high school, and that like made you think that, hey, I might want to do this coaching thing one day?
Man, I'm going to be honest with you, just kind of growing up how I grew up, I was all about just like, how can I make money? How can I get rich? And can I go to the league? And I hate to say that, but, most minorities, and I'm not just saying minorities, but a lot of young men just like, man, I'm going to the league, That's just, and definitely these college dudes, I'm going to the league.
Yeah.
That's what I was one of those kids. I was one of those kids that, like, I'm going to the league. Well, I didn't realize that I was 5'9". I was a great high school football player, man. I broke school records. Yep. I exceeded every expectation you can have as a high school, and even in college, I reached a bunch of my goals, but I knew what high school coaches did for me. I went to school and I wanted to get into dental. I was like, that's not for me. I realized it.
Yeah, I'd be in the same boat there.
Yeah, man. And so my thing was it took guys like Coach Blankenship and my high school middle linebacker coach, my high school defensive coordinator, the people that I deal with and I associate with in my life today is my high school coaches, which is like the person that ordained me was Coach Blankenship. Like he ordained me and my wife. The person who I have a side business with was my high school special teams coordinator coach. The person who I go on Christmas and take my family down there to go visit them on Christmas is my high school middle linebacker coach. So everybody that I associate with I got 4 coaches who I deal with. One lives in Oklahoma City. He was a defensive line coach. He didn't even really coach me, but we talk every day. And so that's the impact they had on my life, and I get the benefit from being in their family. So which is a blessing. And so and they call me their son, which is crazy. I got about 4 or 5 people who I call dad, and they call me their son, and so it's kind of crazy. It gets crazy for me sometimes.
Yeah, man, that's so cool just to see how relationships really do matter.
There's no doubt.
And you just never know how a life can impact a life. That now you're head football coach for hundreds of kids.
Yeah.
How every day you just never know. And
if you change one life, that changed generations. And so my life changed, and now I can change my son's life, and it just goes generations and generations. And so I grew up where school wasn't important, and it was just it wasn't it wasn't the main thing. It just wasn't important or whatever. It was more surviving. But I knew school was important myself, and so me going to school and getting an education, my kids don't know nothing else about, hey, Dad went to school, he got a master's degree, he got a bachelor's degree, and they don't know anything else. And there's people in my family, man, they didn't even finish high school, and they got kids now, and it's like, my thing is how are you going to tell your kids, hey, go to school and go get a degree and go do this, and you didn't do it. So it's always good to be the example first, and I get that just how some people was raised. I totally understand that, but it's just all about how you grow up and what your beliefs in. But I think it's like we all kind of know this. You got that one coach who's so big and fat and he's sloppy, but he's telling you to go run.
Yeah, we've all been that spot. Yeah.
Well, look at you sitting there saying stuff to him like, you fat piece of crap. Yeah. And so I try to stay in shape because I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah, exactly.
So I just think you just got to be an example and stuff like that. And so because these kids.
So you make sure you outlift most of the guys?
Oh, I try to.
Yeah.
I get in there with them, and I better do it while I'm young, right?
Exactly, yeah.
So the more I can be active with them, the more, kids are different these days,
Yeah, just keep evolving.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So.
And then, so was it after you got done playing at Pitt State that you knew you wanted to coach?
Yeah. So after I got done playing at Pittsburgh State, I just could not see myself. I was like, I got to do something with sports, broadcasting or something. So I was just coaching. So I called my old high school or whatever, and the guy who had the job was Kurt Frederick, who coached here at Owasso for a short time or whatever. Okay. And so I go up there and I interview with him, and I didn't know how teaching worked and how all this worked. I just wanted to coach, man. It's like, well, you got to get your teaching certification, all that stuff. And so I kind of go through the process. And at that time, it was 2010, 2009. It was a teacher, teachers kind of went on strike. It was and so I kind of got a job like that at my high school. That it was like my dream job. I was like, I can't believe I'm back at Union, where I went to high school at. And I was there for 2 or 3 years, and I won my first year coaching. I won a state championship.
Wow,
which is unbelievable.
So you're probably just like, man, this is just gonna happen every year.
And then the second year we go back to back, and Coach Blankenship ended up getting a job at the University of Tulsa. Well, he calls me and said, "Hey, you want to coach?" I was like, "Absolutely, I want to coach at football." Well, he tricked me. He actually hired me as a grad assistant.
Okay, yeah.
Which I was so mad that it was a grad assistant because I was done with school, man. But it ended up turning out so. You know how grad assistants are,
Yep.
man. You gotta do 90 hours of football, and then at the University of Tulsa, they can give two craps about athletics. It's football. It's school first, and they give. So it's all about freaking athletics. I mean, it's school, and so those professors, it's real important that you make a relationship with them.
Yeah, that's been key for me in Arkansas.
Oh, absolutely. You got a relationship with them, and you show up on time, you do what you're supposed to do, and they kind of give you a little bit more leeway. It's called playing the game.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah.
So I had to play the game there, and once they kind of got to trust me and believe in me or whatever, they gave me a little bit of leeway, but it was definitely hard at the University of Tulsa going to school and working for 90 hours a week as a football coach, but it became a blessing again because I got a master's degree and a degree. Any I don't care if it's basket weaving at Tulsa, it can take you a long way. So it's just it was a great opportunity, and I got to learn under so many guys there, man. Like one of the coaches' name was Scout Downey. He was our special teams coordinator. Well, he freaking recruited Drew Bledsoe and worked with him at Purdue, the guy who invented the 4-2-5 defense. With Gary Patterson and his name is Brent Guy, they kind of invented this defense, and the list goes on. Of Calvin Thibodeau, he was an All-American at OU, and he was our D-line coach there. So I got to work with the defensive coordinator at UTSSA right now. I worked with him. So like the list is.
That's crazy. And wasn't Miles on there too?
Yeah. At one point in time, it was Miles on was there, Chad Morrison there. Andrew Wiggins, who's
that's Alabama, right? Alabama. Okay, yeah.
Like that was a staff there.
That's crazy. That was all at Tulsa.
At the University,
yeah.
But they were rolling there.
Yeah, they were doing good.
Yeah, they were really good, and so people don't realize that, like that they had these people there, and so you go back and you look at it, you get to learn from all these people, and I try to just suck up as much as I can, and get as much knowledge as I can from them, and I end up doing it. So I end up going and doing that whole deal. And so the year before, I was like, man, this college life is hard. You put a lot of hours in, you make great money, but you don't get to enjoy it. And so my thing was like, man, I need to the high school, once I did it for 3 years or so, I kind of just felt like it just wasn't for me, because it's just hard. Like, it takes somebody special to be a college football coach, and with everything changed, so I decided to go back to high school route. Went back to Union, coached there for a couple of years, was blessed enough to won another state championship there, and so and then Coach Blankenship gives me a call. I'm actually headed to Fayetteville to take this to go work with him. I'm actually about to go tell my boss, like, hey, I'm leaving Union again for a championship, and I'm about to go work at Fayetteville High School. Well, I get on social media that night and I see Coach Blankenship takes this job here, and I'm like, you got to be freaking kidding me, because we all know as a teacher in Oklahoma, you don't get paid very much. Arkansas, you cross the state border, you can almost double your salary. So I'm excited to go to Arkansas. And so he's like, no, man, I'm taking this Arkansas job. I'm taking this Owasso job. And I'm like, Coach, they were horrible. We just played them at Union. We put up 65 points on them.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah, and I was like, you got to be freaking kidding me, Coach. And so I was really upset with Coach Blankenship, but, he done a lot for me, and I'm loyal to him. So I end up coming over here, man. I took a lift of faith and came over here, and I'll be dang, man, our first year, we won a state championship over here in 2017.
Seems like every high school you go to, first year state championship.
Yeah, I got to be a first year head coach.
Yeah, first.
We won a state championship here, and it's just something. It was just crazy. It was like one of those. It was like a movie, but the talent was here. it's just that the kids bought in, and we had some freaks on that team too, man.
Yeah, you guys had a ton of D1 guys on that team.
Josh Proctor was one of them. He played at Ohio State this year. Wayne Jones, he played as well. Quartre Alexander, he ended up going.
Yeah, he was at Arkansas for a year. Yeah, I remember that.
Yep. So I mean, Will Kenny, our quarterback, was a Division I quarterback. We had somebody. I mean, we had several. I think we signed like 17 kids that year.
That's insane. It's like IMG stuff.
Yeah, we signed 17 kids. So the talent was here. It just needed, a different little flavor.
Yep.
And so we ended up winning another state championship in 2019. Who also was a good class, and then up till now, I think out of the 7 years that we've been here, we've been in the Final Four every time except 1 year, and so but people still really don't give us the respect we need, So we just like we still that underdog Owassos that it separates themselves from Tulsa, and so I kind of keep it that way.
Yep.
I don't mind. So, and Coach Makeshift decided to retire, and I got the opportunity to get this job, man, and been rolling ever since, man. So learn something new every day within this. So.
Yeah, it's definitely been a journey. In the verse that I think of when I think of because I'm sure you're at Owasso for about 7 years as an assistant, and I'm sure I'm sure there probably was opportunities to go other places.
Absolutely was.
But kind of a quote I was telling some of my buddies before we did this was so many people with the transfer portal in college, they think the grass is always greener on the other side. Yep. But what they might not realize is there might be a terrible sewer system underneath the grass. And there's a Bible verse in Galatians 6 verse 9 which says, "Don't grow weary of doing good, because at the proper time you'll reap a harvest when you do not give up." And I think that's a great verse, just for you, because just being patient, just trusting God's timing.
Yeah, man. My first year here, I had a job offer, and my thing was I can take that job, it will pay me more money, but if I lose, I'm probably not going to be able to get back to Sisse. So some people take these jobs where you kind of see it, you see these coaches, they take these jobs because they want to be a head coach, and they take that job, and when they was an assistant, they were a great coach, they were killing it. And they went to that job, and they didn't do very well, and now nobody don't want to touch them. And so you see that all the time, and I was just I'm going to be patient, because if worse comes to worse, if I lose here, I can go get another job from here, But once you take a 4A job and you go over it,
Yeah.
There's like you said, you got to be patient, and you got to take the right jobs, and you want to take jobs where there's support and long term, So it's all a business. You got to be smart about it. You got to be patient. You got to trust God.
Yep.
So that's kind of where I'm at with it.
And now that you're a head coach, I know there's a lot of differences from being an assistant and head coach, but what are some of the biggest changes you've already realized that are okay, I knew some things would be different, but I didn't realize I have to do that?
The biggest change is let's just say me and you're on my staff 3 months ago, and I'm just an assistant. Where we hanging out, and we're at the house, we're just doing our thing, and now I'm your boss. Well, I see some of my guys on my staff is kind of you kind of see our relationship changes a little bit. Oh, he's the boss now. Man, nothing's not gonna change. Of course, I'm gonna expect. My expectations for you to do your job. My expectation was you to do your job when there was assistant, right? So my expectation is still the same for that person. And some people think that I'm a boss, I gotta, I can't, so you kind of get, it's lonely at the top.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody wants to be a head coach, and sometimes it gets lonely up there because, they kind of put you in a different category now. So you kind of see that change, and you walk in the room and you walk in now and everybody kind of be quiet.
Yeah.
So it's kind of different a little bit. So it's trying to figure out how my staff thinking, and which I don't worry about all that, because that'll just drive you crazy.
Oh yeah, you could worry about that for days.
Yeah, exactly. So kind of seeing a different side of that, and that's the biggest thing. I kind of been on the leadership role here on this staff, so with the kids it really haven't changed much. But it's me, it's what am I going to do different than Coach Blankenship, because that's like the hard part. Like, all right, Coach Blankenship did it this way. How I'm going to do it this way. You know what I'm saying? And so I had to kind of put my own little stamp on it, and I'm able to do that. Like, a lot of stuff's going to stay the same, but I'm more old school. Coach Blankenship was at that point of his career where he wasn't fighting a lot of the battles anymore. Like, for example, when I was playing for him, you can wear jewelry in the weight room. And so, but he's changed since then. So I'm kind of going back to those old school ways, because you see these facilities, man, it's beautiful. People know Owasso, and these kids get used to this and they get spoiled. And so they go off and go to college, right? Let's say you get a kid that go to NSU. Well,
then he doesn't.
Our facility is better than NSU. So I try to take away the entitlement, and so. I just let them know how blessed they are. Like, we got a nutritionist here, man. Well, high school has a nutritionist. They have their own lunch line. They get
just for the football players.
Yeah, well, for just athletes only.
Okay.
It's for the student body, but they got a chance to go through their own training table, where you go through this line, you can get 4 chicken nuggets. Well, if you go through this line, you can get 20. Because we want to make sure they're they're keep their weight gain and weight loss kids. They eat the right nutrition for themselves, and so we got a nutritionist where she tells you like, hey coach, you need to eat this, this, and this before a game, and they can tell this person where you need to have this, this, and this, so they can meet with a nutrition every week here. We got screen coaches. We got 3 screen coaches here. We got one's a female. We got 2 males. The reason why we got a female is that she works with football as well, because some kids are raised by single moms, and so they're used to hearing a mom's voice. You hired a female so she can work with the female sports. No, we hired a female because she can work with football, because they're used to hearing a female voice because they're raised by single moms. So and she's just as good as our male coach. So the resources here is outrageous for these kids, and so I just try to keep them humble, and I'm real strict on them keeping the locker room clean. And we're not here to take care of you. We're not your mom, and we want to make sure you take care of yourself. And so when they leave here, they usually we call it like a college prep program. We have a player development here, like I told you earlier. So whenever you go to college, it's going to feel that way, like high school. So it's not going to be a huge jump. Because some kids, when they go to college, it's like, God dang, it's so hard. When they leave Owasso, they're going to feel that like there's not going to be a big jump from Owasso to Arkansas. I think it's just going to be the schedule, and so that's kind of something that we do here. Yeah,
that'll definitely make everything a lot smoother. And when you're talking about like with the jewelry and everything, and like how nice the facilities are, it reminded me of like the quote that like obviously like the players are living modern because like they got all the nicest gear and everything, but but you're making sure they still like train old school.
Absolutely, and I just think it's like if they greet an adult. It's no ma'am, yes ma'am. They're looking people in their eyes. They like the other day, not the other day, but last week I had a player that come up to me. You always hear kids say, "Oh, what's up, bro?" or "What's going on, bro?" I go, "Man, I had no idea that we were related." He calls me bro, and so he had to go run for it. I'm like, I'm coach, or or something like that. Like, I'm not your bro. I'm like, I love you to death, but we're family. But I didn't know we had the same mom and dad.
Exactly.
But you got these kids that they have to be prepared for life after football, whether they play football or not. You can't go up to your boss and say, "Hey, bro," I'm of a person of authority, and so I'm trying to like cut those ways.
Exactly.
And so that goes back to one of those ways. Like when I was an assistant coach, they probably could say "bro" to me. So now I'm not an assistant coach, I'm a head coach. So
exactly.
But I didn't allow that as assistant coach neither. So.
And it's almost like I love that because like right there you're looking out for the 30-year-old version of them rather than the 15 to 18-year-old.
And they don't understand that now, unfortunately. But I just tell them it's no hard feelings. I said, dude, there's no hard feelings, but we're trying to change the culture which that's just me. The coach is already, is already here, but that's just me trying to, what can I do different from Coach Blankenship? What the things that he didn't do that I wish I would have done. It's not very much. It's just some stuff that he didn't fight, So he didn't care about the jury and the injuries and stuff like that. He just wanted, hey, make sure they're working hard and do what they're supposed to do. Well, I don't need you all dripped out and this guy looks like he's in what he's supposed to show separation.
Yeah.
I'm all about swagger and looking good, but we all got to be on the same page, man.
Exactly.
I can't have 20 prima donnas over here, and then I got guys over here that's actually doing it right. And I don't care. You can be the 5-star kid, or you can be the kid who will never see the field. Everybody's going to do the same thing.
Yep. So would you say unity is a huge part of your culture? Just having everyone on the same page?
Yes, I think so. That's what I'm trying to get better at developing. Like, we're going to do something every week where we take the kids bowling or paintballing where, hey, this week we're going to go bowling and it's going to be the O-lineman versus the DB.
Yeah, those would be some pretty intense games there. Yeah.
Something we can just do that you just don't see happening in programs anymore. Like the bond, like, man, I remember when I was in high school, man, we would go play NCAA for hours at my house and kids don't watch football anymore. Like, the only time they really watch football is with us. Like, crazy deal. This season, we asked our players on this team who all watch Hard Knocks. Not one person said they did.
Oh, wow.
Hard Knocks is like a
yeah.
deal. They don't watch football anymore. I guarantee you that. Maybe 30% of those kids watched the national championship game last night. It didn't care if your team is in it. If football's on, I'm watching it. It's a national championship game.
Yeah, so and just like the pageantry, everything behind it, like.
Yeah, so I'm trying to get that back, man. I don't know if you even realize that yet, man. But it's just like guys just don't get together like they used to do and chill on the couch and order a pizza and watch football and just have that bond. It's something that's going away, and those are the teams that was so special to me, and we did special things because we had a great bond and we trusted each other like our life depended on it. Yeah, there's going to be fights, there's going to be times I get tired of you, but at the end of the day, you're my brother and I got your back.
Yeah.
So that's just unity and having each other back and never judging anybody. That's kind of basically what this program is going to be about.
Yeah, and I think another word I thought of when you talked about that is I think when you're around the guys, you guys have that bond. Like, no matter if it's you're down by 20, up by 20, like everyone on that sideline, I feel like is just gonna have that belief.
Yeah, and we're huge on body language here. It's like, man, when we still down by 20, we're still going to run out to the field. Yeah. We're not going to just walk. So that shows a sign of weakness.
Yep, like defeated pretty much.
Yep, and so like it's little things that I'm trying to implement in the program where we're not showing that stuff. Like there's no leaning on the wall, sign of weakness. If you ever play sports, lean on your teammates. If you can't stand up, dude, you can lean. I don't care how tired you are, you don't need to lean on the man. Come on now, like unless you're about to die. So I'm trying to get that mental aspect in them, And so,
I think it kind of goes back to a reality check too of what is pressure, and just when they're go through those hard things, workouts. I think it almost helps is when you have all those players. Some of the best memories when I started losing my sight is whenever I was doing sprints, and sure it was hard. But the only way I knew where I was going is from hearing my teammates encouraging me.
Oh yeah.
And just that energy during those hard workouts is so powerful.
Oh, it is, man. It could either you cannot make it or you can make it. And by having your brothers be there for you and stuff like that, and so we try to encourage all around here. And I always have a saying to myself, never. There's a lot of coaches, you've been around a lot of coaches now where you kind of hearing a bunch of the stuff where never give up on a fat kid. You got that one fat kid that everybody knows is fat kid. Yeah. He ain't going to make his time. But if that big fat kid buys into it, that be the kid that end up getting the Division I scholarship.
Yeah.
Because that fat kid, he is 6'4", for that he's fat, he's sloppy. But when he figures it out, he ends up. So I'm always patient with those big fat kids because they can just believe in themselves and they figure it out. Those be the ones that go Division I. It's not one fat kid out there that it's running ain't hard for. But you just got to continue to encourage them and motivate them in a way where it works out good. So
yeah, it's almost like the saying, like at the other side of pressure, like you'll find a diamond.
Exactly.
Because like you just never know, like whether it's a fat kid or just like anyone in general, like when you just keep going.
Yeah, if you just can believe in yourself, man, there's a diamond in the rough that can always develop, baby. So.
And what would you say is like, so say a kid came through your program from 9th to 12th grade. Mm-hmm. What's like one thing, if you could take away anything, what's something you want to take away from the Wausau football program?
Man, Dad, I would hope that they can always say, man, I can't wait to give a wedding invitation to my coach. If I can get a wedding invitation, I know I want that. Because you're just not going to invite anybody to your wedding, I would hope. That goes a long ways. I think it covers all bases. That coach meant something to me in my life. That coach impacted me in a way where I will hope that he come to my wedding and see the best day of my life. You know, so that's what I like hearing from. Like, man, it's nothing like getting a wedding invitation from a kid you coach, and I want them to say that, hey, Coach Graham was always real. Because I think the most important thing, you can see fakeness, you can see a person's not genuine or whatever, and so when they leave this program, they can at least say, hey, it might didn't work out for me, but at least Coach Graham was real. He didn't sugarcoat nothing to me. He told me what was straight up, even though I didn't like it. But I could respect a man if he just be real with me. You know, it's like for an example, like I always tell my assistant coaches, don't ever tell a kid that, hey, this game, man, I'm going to get you in. And so what is that kid's doing? He's walking up the sidelines right by you, and then the game get real close, and it's going to overtime. Well, that kid that you just told that you was going to let him play in the game, now he didn't get in the game, and now he lost all trust in you. So you always got to be careful what you tell kids, because now when you tell that kid that, hey, I'm going to put you in the game, he's not going to believe you. So I tell our coaches, like, if you tell a kid that you're going to play him or you're going to say something to a kid, you better freaking go through with it. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, exactly.
That's one thing that I don't want a kid to go away from this program and saying, like, man, those guys are not trustworthy. They tell you something. So, you know, hopefully I get a wedding invitation and they can just say, man, those coaches really want what's best for you. You know? Yeah. So,
and pretty much I feel like the main things you're trying to create, just the Wausau football program, is just like we talked about, that unity, and like, man, there's power when you believe in something in life, and just like your story, like when you believe, like you can do anything you want.
Yeah, and I was telling a friend, I was saying this a couple of weeks, man, like you always hear these athletes say, man, if you believe in it, you can do it. I never really experienced that until now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because it's like whenever you experience it and it comes true for you, now you're a believer. I always the guy that worked hard and did things, but I'm just like, man, if you really put in the work and if you actually have a vision and you write stuff on the paper, it could happen for you. And it may not happen when you want it to, but it can really happen. So I tell that to anybody, whoever you are, in whatever situation, because I've been in the worst of the worst. I've been where I didn't know what I was going to eat or how I was going to make it. I've been in the lack of support, but I just kind of kept my head up high, and I always knew somebody was out there worse than me, you know?
Yeah.
So that's just kind of how I kind of look at it. I try to tell these kids that too as well.
I think that's great perspective, and like just what you've gone through in your life is going to be able to like not just help those players like on the field, but like off the field too, because like we talked about before we got on, like you never know like what one day can hold, but that's why like every day is a blessing.
Yeah, no doubt. Absolutely. Just waking up, it is.
Yes, sir. And then before we get off, there's going to be someone listening to this podcast today that, is going through something hard, or they're just stuck in life and they just don't feel like they can rise above, what's a message you'd have, whether it's like one of your players or just someone listening to this podcast just going through something tough?
And I'm being real here, right? I'm going to say, look at you. I'm going to say, if you're watching this podcast right now, look at this person right here next to me. And the whole time he has had a smile on his face. He's been positive, and he did not let his disability use it as an excuse. And I complain a lot myself, man. And I'm not saying that because you're, but if you're watching this podcast and you're going through something hard in your life, and if you don't have, and if you can see it, you can direct yourself, and you're not losing your sight. Look at this man right here. He's not making an excuse. And he's still up here interviewing me. Was patient. I showed up a few minutes late. Didn't complain. Asking unbelievable questions. This is the inspiration. So there may be days where, oh man, things are not working. Go to his Instagram and look at his pictures on his Instagram. He's smiling. He's encouraging people. That's so. Thank you.
So yeah. Thank you, Coach. And like, from the time I even like heard about you, and my mom sent me that video, I was like, man, I gotta have this guy on, because I could just tell, like, Coach Morris, one of the top 3 most impactful people in my life, right after I lost my sight, told me, like, he told the whole Arkansas football team this when I was in front of them. He said, guys, I don't care what you face in life. The only disability in life, and then the team at unison said, a bad attitude. Yep. And so, like, that's just what I see with you, and that's why, like, I'm always gonna be rooting for you, and I wish you and whatever Owasso or whatever your future takes you the best success.
Well, you and your family, your homeboys, you guys are always welcome here, and definitely if you come in town, you let me know. I'll be sure to pitch you in somewhere where you can enjoy the game, and we got to get you some Owasso Rim.
Oh, yes, sir. Yeah, I do. I was like, I need some Owasso gear. Yes, sir.
I would make sure we take care of that, too, as well. And so we make sure we take care of you.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you, Coach.
You let me know, and you tell your mom and family, whoever wants to come up, man, we take care of you and your friends. And so, but you got to promise you come back and get to it now.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I got you, Coach. Yeah. Yes, sir.
And I know you're busy. You got to make it happen there.
Oh, yes. I'd love to. And then, man, we thank everyone, and especially Coach Graham, for being on with us today. And everyone listen, you can catch the Rise Above podcast on any platform you listen to podcasts on, or on YouTube. And know that no matter what you face this week or for the rest of your life, whenever you put your hope in something greater than you, you can always rise above the storms of life. We'll catch you guys next time.